The Treasurer has met with his American counterpart in Washington, D.C. with trade and tariffs on the agenda. Our North America correspondent, Cayman Gock, joins us from Washington now. Cayman, good morning. What was discussed?
Morning, James. Well, the pair spoke on a range of topics, but the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, said the goal was to continue that conversation over whether or not Australia would receive an exemption on tariffs. President Trump, in his first administration, had 25% tariffs on steel and also tariffs on aluminium, but Australia received an exemption during that administration. He said he's greatly considering if Australia will receive an exemption again in this administration, but that is yet to be confirmed. So the Treasurer reiterated a number of points to his US counterpart, Scott Bessent. They talked about the fact that the US has a trade surplus with Australia, meaning Australia imports more American goods than America imports Australian goods. They talked about the current free trade agreement, how the vast majority of goods don't have tariffs on it, and the strategic location of Australia in the Indo-Pacific. They also touched on critical earth minerals, and the Treasurer pointed out that of the 50 minerals the US deemed critical, Australia could provide 36 of those. And then they also spoke about Australian super, and that's because there's actually an Australian superannuation summit being held here in Washington, D.C. and later in New York, and that's to look at investment opportunities in the States, because Australia has one of the largest pension capital pools in the world, and that's only expected to grow bigger, and it's outpacing Australia's economy, so it's looking to invest more in the United States. In fact, it currently has about $400 billion invested here. That's expected to expand to about $1 trillion in a decade's time. So the Treasurer pointed out all these facts to try and sway the current administration's opinion and to get an exemption. But when his counterpart was asked if Australia would receive such a thing, he said ultimately it's not his decision. And here is what Treasurer Jim Chalmers had to say in response.
It's well understood that at the end of the day, this will be President Trump's call. I think that's well understood in the administration and certainly in our government and in our discussions. My task here in DC wasn't to try and conclude that discussion, it was to try and inform it.
So as you heard, not to conclude, but to inform that discussion. And it's yet to be seen in the coming weeks whether or not that information that the Treasurer has shared will be listened to, and if Australia will in fact get an exemption. As he said, he believes it's ultimately comes down to what Donald Trump wants.